My alien neighbor knocked. I'm out of milk. I said, then you'll need a new mate, too. Eli Navarro had lived on Safira Station for almost 5 years, and he liked it quiet. The station floated lazily in orbit around a soft green and blue planet, its metal panels glinting in the distant sun. Life here was slow, calm, and peaceful. Mostly humans and a handful of alien neighbors, all trying to coexist without drama. Or so Eli thought. That evening, Eli was in his small kitchen, humming softly to himself as he chopped vegetables. The smell of roasting herbs filled the air. Outside, the soft hum of the station's engines blended with distant chatter from the corridor. Too ordinary, Eli thought. Then came the knock. It was polite, hesitant, but persistent. Not loud, just enough to make you stop what you were doing. Eli wiped his hands on his apron, peered through the small viewport in his door, and froze. Standing there was Xylox, his neighbor from apartment 3B. Xylox was an alien, one of those quiet, awkward species the humans called Lumerians. They were tall, thin, with translucent scales that shimmered faintly under light. Their eyes were huge, golden, and oddly mesmerizing, like twin pools of liquid metal. Xylox looked nervous. I am out of milk, the alien said in a soft, melodic voice. Eli blinked. That was it? Just milk? He opened the door, letting the alien step in. You came all the way here for milk? Eli asked, raising an eyebrow. Xylox's hand waved in a small, polite gesture. Yes, my supply is depleted. I require fresh milk. Eli leaned on the doorway, smirking. Well, then you'll need a new mate, too. The words slipped out before Eli could think. His tone was playful, half-joking, but Xylox froze. His huge golden eyes widened so much it was almost comical. The alien tilted his head, confused. Humans? They never made sense, thought Xylox. Mate? Xylox repeated. Why would milk require a new mate? Eli laughed, holding up a finger. Relax, I'm joking. Humans have a strange sense of humor. Sometimes we say things that make no sense at all. Xylox didn't laugh. He tilted his head even further, a frown flickering across his translucent face. Eli could almost see the gears turning in his mind. Xylox had expected a simple interaction. Milk for milk. Instead, he got a puzzle. Eli stepped aside. Come in, let's get that milk. The apartment was small but cozy. Eli's kitchen smelled like roasted herbs and fresh bread. He led Xylox to the small fridge, which hummed quietly. This is where the milk lives, Eli said, opening the fridge. He picked up a carton and handed it to Xylox. Here you go. Fresh, cold, perfect for whatever aliens drink milk for. Xylox stared at it, carefully inspecting the carton as though it might explode. He made a small sound, almost like a laugh, but not quite. Your human ways are strange, he said softly. Eli chuckled. You think that's strange? You should meet my neighbors across the hall. Or my coworkers. They'd confuse you so badly, you'd question reality itself. Xylox tilted his head, intrigued. Humans are unpredictable. I do not understand. Eli shrugged. Good, that's half the fun. The alien handed Eli the milk with both hands. I must return this. Your humor, it is unsettling. Eli grinned. Unsettling? I'll take that as a compliment. Xylox left soon after, but Eli could feel the alien stare on him even as the door closed. It was strange watching someone try to understand humans and failing. Humans weren't predictable. Humans didn't follow rules like everyone else. Humans, Eli, always found a way to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. Ellie poured himself a cup of tea, thinking about the interaction. Milk, a simple, ordinary thing. And yet, somehow, humans could make it interesting. The next morning, Eli ran into Xylox again in the corridor. The alien was carrying a small bag of groceries, including a carton of milk. Xylox paused, hesitating. Did you survive my joke? Xylox asked cautiously. Eli smiled. Survived? I didn't even know it was dangerous. Xylox shook his head, but there was a tiny glimmer of amusement in his eyes. Humans, they adapt quickly. too quickly. That was the thing about humans, Eli thought. He didn't even try to impress Xylox. He just was, and humans had a way of changing situations with nothing but wit, charm, and thinking outside the box. Xylox had just experienced it firsthand. By midweek, Eli's strange reputation had started to spread among the Lemurians in the station. Xylox couldn't stop talking about the human who made milk a puzzle. Not in a bad way, but in a what is this species capable of kind of way. Eli, meanwhile, went about his usual routines, tinkering with old machinery, fixing small problems, chatting with other humans, making jokes that went over aliens' heads. To him, it was ordinary. To them, it was unsettling brilliance. Then, the unexpected happened. The station's main water supply system developed a small leak. The aliens panicked. They didn't understand how to repair it without calling the Central Tech Authority, which would take hours, maybe days. Eli appeared on the scene with a grin. "Relax," he said simply. He inspected the pipes, made a few quick calculations in his head, and within minutes, the leak was fixed. The water flowed smoothly again. Xylox watched, jaw literally dropping. How did you do that?" Eli shrugged. "Humans think differently. We don't always wait for instructions. We improvise." The aliens whispered among themselves. Humans, they realized, weren't just strange. They were extraordinary. And it all started with a knock at the door and a carton of milk. By the weekend, Eli had inadvertently become the human legend of the station. Xylox still came by, sometimes for actual help, sometimes just to observe. Eli treated every visit the same, with humor, cleverness, and calm confidence. One afternoon, Xylox asked, do you always think like this?" Eli smiled, holding a wrench in one hand and a cup of tea in the other. "Like what?" "Like unpredictable, clever, fearless." Eli laughed. That. Humans, Xylox. We don't think about being clever. We just are." Xylox paused, absorbing the words. Then, with a faint smile, he said, "Humans, they are dangerous." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous? I like to think of it as fun." But inside, Eli knew the truth. Humans weren't just fun. Humans were a species that could adapt, improvise, and outthink anyone. And Xylox, like many aliens, was only beginning to understand that. That night, Eli sat by the window, sipping tea. The station glimmered beneath him, peaceful and quiet. He thought about Xylox, the milk, and the little joke he'd made. Humans didn't just live in the galaxy, they changed it. And apparently, even a knock at the door could start a legend. Eli smiled to himself. Whatever the galaxy threw at humans next, they would survive. And often, with a laugh. The door to adventure had been knocked on, quite literally. And Eli Navarro was ready. The day after the water leak incident, Xylox's curiosity about humans had reached a new level. He found himself wandering near Eli's apartment, pretending to inspect the hallway lights while actually watching Eli work in his kitchen. Humans, Xylox had realized, were unlike any species he had ever encountered. They seemed chaotic, fearless, and yet precise in a way that made no logical sense. Eli, of course, noticed immediately. He leaned against his counter, casually stirring a pot of stew. "Observing again, Xylox?" he asked without looking up. The alien froze, his long fingers gripping the railing nervously. I am merely ensuring your safety," he replied in a voice that wavered slightly. Xylox had never been good at lying. Eli chuckled. "Safety? From what? Me stirring soup?" Xylox frowned. "Humans. You are unpredictable. I must study your methods." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Study my methods? It's just soup. There's no method, except maybe adding too much salt, which I sometimes do on purpose." Xylox tilted his head, clearly perplexed. "You deliberately change outcomes. For amusement?" "Exactly," Eli said with a grin. "Humans enjoy small surprises. It keeps life interesting." The alien's large eyes flickered with a mixture of confusion and awe. "Humans, they do not follow standard protocols." "That's the beauty of it," Eli said. We improvise, we adapt, and we have fun while doing it. Xylox took a careful step forward. You make it sound simple. Yet it is impossible for my people. Eli nodded. That's because your species thinks in steps. Plans. Protocols. Humans, we think in ideas, possibilities, and mistakes. Mistakes are just lessons waiting to happen. Later that day, Eli decided to give Xylox a lesson in true human ingenuity. He handed him a simple box filled with various household items, a small fan, some metal rods, a string, and a few containers. I need you to fetch the milk from the top shelf over there, he said, pointing to the kitchen cabinet. The shelf was clearly too high for Xylox to reach. Xylox frowned. This is impossible. I cannot reach it. Eli shrugged. Impossible? No such thing. Humans call it a challenge. You figure it out. Xylox stared at the box. Carefully, he began moving items around, trying to create a contraption that would lift him or the milk. He pushed rods together, tied strings, and balanced containers. Each time something fell, he would pause, recalculate, and try again. Eli watched quietly, sipping tea. You see, Xylox, he said after a while, humans don't panic when things fail. We fail, learn, and keep going. That's why we always seem one step ahead. Xylox's brow furrowed. After several attempts, he managed to create a small pulley system that lifted the milk just enough for him to grab it. His eyes widened in disbelief. I did it, he exclaimed. Eli smiled. Exactly. You just thought like a human. It's not about following rules. It's about creating your own path. The alien looked at him, awed. Your species. You bend reality with thought. Eli laughed. Reality isn't bent. It's just flexible. And humans, we're flexible too. By midweek, Xylox had started shadowing Eli whenever he could. At first, he claimed it was to learn human problem solving, but Eli suspected the alien was more fascinated than anything else. Humans, after all, were unpredictable and bold in ways no other species could understand. One afternoon, the colony's shared transport system broke down. The aliens panicked, running in circles, trying to fix the problem according to their strict protocols. Eli walked in, examined the system for a few minutes, and then casually started fiddling with wires and switches. Within half an hour, the transport system whirred back to life. Xylox, who had been nervously hovering nearby, stared in disbelief. How did you fix it? You do not follow the instructions? Eli shook his head. Instructions are suggestions, my friend. Humans don't follow them blindly. We think, we try, we experiment. That's why we solve problems faster. The other aliens murmured among themselves. Whispers spread quickly through the station. The human fixes things that we cannot even attempt. Xylox approached Eli cautiously. Your species is unpredictable. I am beginning to understand why humans are feared in some sectors of the galaxy. Eli smirked. Feared? Nah, we're just clever and sometimes entertaining. Xylox frowned. Clever, yes, but your courage, your audacity, it is beyond comprehension. Courage? Eli asked. It's just common sense. Humans see a problem and we act. No hesitation, no fear. We figure it out. The alien scales shimmered nervously. You, humans, you adapt faster than any other species I have encountered. You are dangerous. Eli chuckled. Dangerous? I like to think of it as fun. Over the next few days, Eli gave Xylox small tasks, each designed to challenge the alien's rigid thinking. Sometimes it was building something out of scraps. Sometimes it was negotiating with other aliens using human logic, which Xylox could barely follow. Each time, Xylox grew more amazed at Eli's thought process. One day, Xylox asked, Eli, why do humans always challenge themselves like this? Eli leaned back, wiping his hands. Why? Because it's fun. Life is more than rules and protocols. It's about ideas, possibilities, and sometimes laughter. Humans learn by doing. Aliens learn by thinking. That's the difference. Xylox's eyes narrowed. But sometimes humans fail? Eli grinned. Sure, we fail all the time, but failure isn't the end. It's just another way to learn. Most species fear failure. Humans, we embrace it. The alien tilted his head, clearly struggling to process this. Humans, they are not afraid of the impossible? Eli laughed. Impossible is just a challenge waiting to be solved. By the end of the week, Xylox was exhausted mentally and emotionally. His species was logical, precise, and cautious. Humans were not. They were chaotic, unpredictable, and brilliant. Xylox could see it clearly now. Eli Navarro wasn't just clever. He was a perfect example of human ingenuity in action. The alien stopped by Eli's apartment one evening, holding a small device he had been struggling with for days. I cannot fix this, Xylox admitted. My people cannot find solution. But watching you, I understand new ways. Eli smiled and took the device. Within minutes, he had it working perfectly. See, told you. Humans think differently. We see patterns where others see walls. Xylox's eyes flickered with awe. Humans, you change everything simply by thinking. Eli shrugged modestly. Not everything, just enough to make life interesting. That night, Xylox sat in his apartment, staring at the ceiling. He had seen humans in action now, how they adapted, how they laughed in the face of danger, how they solved problems with creativity and courage. His mind whirred with new thoughts. Humans weren't just another species. They were a force. And he realized something else. Humans didn't just exist in the galaxy. They changed it. Even small actions, like delivering milk or fixing a broken system, left ripples other species could feel. For Xylox, that was terrifying and fascinating. The next morning, Eli knocked on Xylox's door, carrying a tray of tea and a small loaf of bread. Thought you might like breakfast, he said with a grin. Xylox hesitated, then opened the door. Humans, you think of everything. Eli laughed. Not everything, just enough to survive and have fun. The alien shook his head slowly. Your species is astonishing. I do not understand it fully, but I respect it. Eli raised his cup, respect earned. Humans like it when people notice cleverness. But remember, Xylox, this is just the beginning. The galaxy hasn't seen anything yet. Xylox blinked. The galaxy will learn. Soon. Humans, they are unstoppable. Eli smiled, finishing his tea. Unstoppable? Nah, just us. And with that, Xylox finally understood a little more about humans. Their humor, their courage, and their extraordinary way of turning the ordinary into something extraordinary. Little did Xylox know, the galaxy would soon see just how extraordinary humans could be. The next morning, Scifi Station buzzed with unusual tension. Word had spread quickly among the aliens about Eli Navarro, the human who fixed a broken transport system, solved plumbing leaks, and taught Xylox that humans did not fear failure. Now, something bigger was happening. The colony's main energy grid had gone down. Aliens ran frantically across the station. Lumerians, Taurians, and Kintari, all highly intelligent species, tried to reroute power, pull up schematics, and figure out the failure according to their strict protocols. But nothing worked. Lights flickered. Lift systems stalled. Water pumps sputtered. Panic was building. Eli, of course, arrived with his usual calm. He strolled through the chaos with a small toolkit in one hand and a cup of tea in the other. What seems to be the problem? He asked, already knowing the answer. Xylox, standing near the main control panel, nearly fell over in shock. Eli, the grid, it is collapsing. We cannot stabilize it. Eli glanced at the tangled mess of wires, humming machines, and blinking warning lights. Of course you can't. You're thinking in rules and restrictions. Let me show you how humans handle this. Xylax tilted his head. Humans, again. Change everything. Eli smiled. That's the plan. Eli crouched near the main console. Unlike the aliens, he didn't grab schematics or manuals. He didn't debate protocols or consult dozens of sensors. He touched the wires, listened to the hum of the machines, and followed patterns in the energy flow. Humans, you do not need approval. Xylox whispered. Approval? Eli asked with a grin. Nope. Humans improvise first, ask questions later. The alien's eyes widened. Impossible, dangerous, yet effective. Eli tapped a few switches, then picked up a metal rod and carefully connected it to a series of circuits. Sparks flickered, but they didn't cause damage. The machines hummed louder, energy stabilized. Lights brightened, lifts moved again, and the colony's systems returned to life. Aliens froze, staring. No one had ever seen someone repair the energy grid so fast, without protocols, without delay, and without error. Eli stood and wiped his hands on his apron. See, humans adapt. We observe, we improvise, we act. That's how we solve problems other species can't. Xylox could only stare, jaw slightly open. Your species, you, change impossible into achievable. By afternoon, Eli was in the center of the colony, helping aliens repair minor failures caused by the energy outage. Some were technical, others social. Communication breakdowns, coordination errors, and even minor disputes over who should control which systems. Eli handled each one with calm efficiency. He divided tasks logically, but creatively, using humor to ease tension. No need to argue about the elevator controls, he told a group of Taurians. We have 4 lifts and 3 species. Just pick a number. Humans are democratic like that. The aliens were astonished. In human hands, problems that seemed impossible suddenly became manageable. Rules bent, procedures adapted, conflicts resolved. Eli Navarro, a single human, was reshaping the colony with nothing more than clever thinking, wit, and calm confidence. Xylox followed closely, taking notes. He had been taught for decades that humans were unpredictable, but he was now seeing the full picture. Humans didn't just improvise. They thrived on improvisation. They didn't just solve problems, they rewrote the rules entirely. Eli, Xylox asked cautiously, do you ever fail? Eli grinned. All the time. But failure is just part of the process. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. The alien's eyes flickered with fascination. Your species does not fear consequences? Fear slows you down, Eli said. Humans weigh risks, yes, but we act anyway. We trust ourselves to find a way. Xylox tilted his head. Unbelievable, terrifying, extraordinary. By evening, word of Eli's exploits had reached the alien leaders. They gathered in the colony's main observation deck, observing the human from a distance. This human, whispered one Taurian. He solved the energy collapse in minutes, when we spent hours analyzing. Yes, said a Kentari elder, and he did it without consulting anyone. He decides, acts, and succeeds. Xylox, standing quietly nearby, added, he is not merely clever. He changes the environment around him. He changes expectations. He demonstrates human superiority in adaptability. The alien leaders exchanged glances. They had underestimated humans for centuries. Now, one single human had proven that their species could outperform centuries of careful planning and study. Meanwhile, Eli continued working. For him, it was normal. He fixed, adjusted, and adapted. He even found small ways to make life easier for his alien neighbors, adjusting lift schedules for efficiency, rerouting power to homes that needed it most, and even modifying some systems for fun. A small Kintari child approached him, eyes wide. Sir, how do you do this? Eli knelt to meet the child's gaze. Step 1. Don't be afraid of trying. Step 2. If it doesn't work, try again. Step 3. Laugh at yourself along the way. That's how humans solve big problems. The child nodded slowly, impressed. I will try. Eli smiled. Good. And remember, humans don't just adapt to the world, we change it. By the next day, the alien community had begun discussing humans differently. Humans were no longer just another species. They were a force, unpredictable, clever, and capable of accomplishing feats that other species could only imagine. Xylox returned to Eli's apartment that morning, carrying a small notebook filled with scribbles. I cannot fully comprehend humans, but to understand more. Eli laughed. It's simple, really. Humans aren't special because of strength or tech. We're special because we adapt, we think creatively, and we never stop. Xylox tilted his head. Adapt, innovate, survive, excel. Your species, it transcends ordinary limits. Exactly, Eli said. Humans thrive where others fail. That's why we're here, and why you'll never truly predict us. A few hours later, a minor technical emergency struck again. This time, a life support system in one of the outer apartments was malfunctioning. Aliens panicked, unsure what to do. Eli strolled over, examining the system. Within minutes, he had the problem fixed, explaining to Xylox along the way how he thought about the issue differently from other species. You see, Xylox, Eli said, pointing at a series of valves and energy conduits. You can follow the manual all you want, but humans, we look at the situation, imagine every possible outcome, then choose the best path. Rules are suggestions. Solutions are limitless. Xylox's eyes widened. Humans, you, reshape reality, using thought, ingenuity, and courage. Eli shrugged. It's what we do. Ordinary humans do extraordinary things every day. Sometimes it's fixing machines. Sometimes it's exploring new worlds. Sometimes it's just making someone smile. The alien blinked. Your species, you, instill awe in all who witness you. Eli grinned. Good. Humans like awe. But remember, we don't seek it. It just happens. That evening, as Eli rested in his apartment, Xylox returned once more. He had brought a small Lumerian snack, a gesture of respect. Eli, you demonstrate human superiority, not in strength, but in thinking, in daring, in adaptation. Eli accepted the snack. Well, I do what I can. Humans, we just try. And sometimes we surprise everyone, including ourselves. Xylox tilted his head, shaking it slowly. I will study humans further. Your species is unparalleled. Your mind is weapon and shield, both. Eli chuckled. And your species is learning. That's half the battle. The rest is just watching humans in action. Over the next few days, Eli continued his work, fixing minor crises, teaching small lessons about human ingenuity, and entertaining Xylox with his strange sense of humor. He repaired systems, organized schedules, and even suggested improvements to long-standing procedures, always using human logic, creativity, and wit. Xylox, who had begun as a timid, awkward neighbor, now watched him in awe. I understand now. Humans, they do not just survive. They transform. The environment, the rules, the expectations, everything. Ellie smiled, finishing a cup of tea. Exactly. Humans don't just live. We change the game. And once we start, you'd better be ready to keep up, or watch in amazement. By the end of Part 3, the aliens of Scifi Station had a new perspective. Humans were no longer just a species. They were agents of change, unpredictable, brilliant, and capable of reshaping situations with nothing but ingenuity, courage, and humor. And Eli Navarro, with his calm confidence and human wit, had shown them exactly how extraordinary humans could be. The colony would never look at humans the same way again. And Eli? He just poured himself another cup of tea, smiled at Xylox, and waited to see what the galaxy would throw at them next. Because humans, they didn't just adapt, they changed the game. The energy crisis on Safira Station was over, thanks to Eli Navarro. But news travels fast in a tight-knit colony, and faster in a galaxy where intelligence networks are everywhere. By the next morning, aliens from neighboring stations, even some from other planets, were quietly observing Safira. They had heard whispers. A human had not only fixed the energy grid, but had done it in a way no alien could understand. Xylox, standing on the balcony of his apartment, watched the distant ships and transmission relays. "They are sending observers," he said. His voice carried a mix of awe and apprehension. "The galaxy wishes to study humans." Now, Eli, ever casual, leaned on the doorway of his apartment. "Study away," he said, sipping tea. "Just don't expect humans to follow your rules. We write our own." Xylox shook his head slowly. "Your species, you, redefine every limit, every expectation, every rule." Eli chuckled. "That's the point." By noon, the first of the alien observers arrived. A delegation of Taurians, Lumerians, and Kentari, all curious about the human phenomenon Eli Navarro had become. They expected a formal presentation, a lecture, or perhaps a human begging for permission to assist. Eli greeted them with a friendly smile and a casual wave. "Hello, neighbors," he said. "You came to see humans in action? Perfect timing. I've got tea and a few problems you might find interesting." The aliens blinked. Not a speech, not a presentation, just tea and problems. Their confusion was palpable. Xylox muttered under his breath. "Humans, they defy expectations constantly." Eli led the delegation to the main station hub. Systems hummed softly, fully restored, yet a few minor glitches remained, intentionally left for demonstration. He tapped a few buttons, causing lights to flicker in a rhythmic pattern. "Observe," he said. "Energy flow is not just about rules. It's about intuition, creativity, and timing." The alien studied carefully, noting his adjustments, his lateral thinking, the way he solved problems without manuals or approvals. Every step was deliberate yet flexible. After the demonstration, Eli turned to Xylox. "See, humans don't just adapt. We improvise, we learn, and we make it look easy." Xylox's eyes shone with realization. "Your species, it changes everything. Not by force, but by thought, skill, and ingenuity." Eli smiled. "Exactly. Humans are not just survivors. We're game changers. And that terrifies some species and fascinates others." A Taurian delegate, still slightly shocked, asked, "You do this alone?" Eli shrugged. "Most humans do. We trust ourselves. We trust our creativity. And we act when others hesitate." The Kentari elder nodded slowly. "We underestimated humans. Entire sectors believed humans limited, ordinary. We now understand differently." Xylox whispered, almost to himself. "Different, indeed. Humans, they redefine the galaxy with every action." Later that evening, Eli returned to his apartment. Xylox followed, carrying a small notebook full of scribbles and observations. "Eli, your species, you are everywhere, yet unseen. You affect reality. Without you are extraordinary." Eli laughed. "Unseen? Maybe. Extraordinary? Maybe. Humans, we just do what comes naturally. Solve problems, adapt, and yes, sometimes make things more fun than they need to be." The alien tilted his head, confused and amazed. "Fun, yet critical, yet effortless. How do all this?" Eli poured a cup of tea. "It's simple. Humans think differently. We see patterns where others see chaos. We trust ourselves to act. And we enjoy the challenge. That's it." Xylox shook his head slowly. "It defies logic. Yet it works perfectly." That night, the station was quiet. Eli sat by his window, sipping tea. Outside, the lights of the orbiting colony sparkled. Xylox stood nearby, still processing everything he had witnessed. "Eli, the galaxy, it watches humans. Now." Xylox said softly. Your species will be studied, analyzed, feared, admired. Eli smiled. Let them watch. Let them learn. Humans are humans. We don't change for anyone. The galaxy will adapt to us, or get left behind. Xylox paused. Humans, you will continue to surprise every species, every system, every expectation? Eli grinned. Every single time. The alien blinked. Then, humans are unstoppable. Eli laughed softly. Not unstoppable. Just unstoppable when necessary. We adapt, we create, we endure, and sometimes we make milk a lesson in survival. Xylox's scales shimmered faintly, a sign of amusement. Milk, lesson indeed. I will never forget humans and Eli Navarro. In particular, in the following days, reports of Eli's ingenuity spread beyond Scifi Station. Neighboring colonies began re-evaluating humans entirely. What had once been dismissed as a quirky, unpredictable species was now seen as a force of ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. Delegations came, not for negotiations or trade, but to observe humans in action. Eli, true to form, greeted them with his casual smile and simple philosophy. Observe, adapt, act. No one could predict exactly what a human would do next, not alien diplomats, not scholars, not technologists. Humans were not just clever, they were alive with possibility, unrestrained by fear or rigid thinking. Xylox, now considered a junior human observer, followed Eli everywhere he went. Every minor task, a broken pipe, a malfunctioning lift, even organizing a tea gathering, was an opportunity to witness human brilliance in action. Your species. I cannot keep up, Xylox admitted one evening. Yet, I wish to follow, to learn. Eli smiled. Good, that's all I ask. Humans don't teach by words alone. We teach by example. The alien's eyes widened. By living, by doing, by thinking. Humans reshape every system, every exactly, and the galaxy is watching. So, Xylox, take notes, observe, learn. You might survive this century just by understanding humans. Weeks passed. Eli continued his work, repairing, adjusting, and teaching in his own casual way. Xylox had become a devoted student, fascinated by the human capacity for improvisation, humor, and ingenuity. One afternoon, Eli fixed a power relay that had been giving aliens trouble for decades, where decades of careful study had failed. One human's thinking succeeded in minutes. Observers from multiple species murmured among themselves. This cannot be replicated, said a Kintari technician. No species thinks like humans. Humans, they are rising, not ordinary, Xylox whispered, noting the exact sequence of Eli's actions. They are force of nature, intelligence, creativity, courage, and humor combined. Eli, overhearing, chuckled. You're taking notes? Good. Humans like that. Shows you care. Finally, the moment came when the aliens truly admitted their awe. In a formal gathering on the observation deck, leaders of neighboring systems sent envoys to meet Eli. They expected explanations, negotiations, perhaps even arrogance. Instead, they found a calm human, smiling, offering tea, and fixing minor issues as they observed. You, said the Taurian leader cautiously. We underestimated your species. We see now, improvise, solve, endure, inspire, lead, change, everything, yet do it effortlessly. Eli simply smiled. Humans do what comes naturally. We survive, we thrive, and sometimes we have fun while doing it. Xylox stood proudly beside Eli. Your species has reshaped our perception, our expectations, our Understanding humans are remarkable beyond measure. The room was silent. Aliens whispered among themselves, eyes wide. Humans were no longer just neighbors. They were a galactic phenomenon, a species that could not be predicted, a species that changed the rules simply by existing. Eli poured himself a final cup of tea. "That's enough for today," he said. "Tomorrow, the galaxy will throw something new at us, and we'll deal with it the human way." Xylox nodded. Yes, humans, always a step beyond every expectation. And with that, Scifi Station returned to quiet, except now, everywhere humans went, aliens whispered stories about Eli Navarro, the human who fixed what others could not, who taught aliens the true power of ingenuity, and who proved that humans were not just another species. They were extraordinary. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. And Eli? He simply sipped his tea, smiled, and waited for the next knock at the door. Because humans didn't just live. They changed the galaxy.